What happens when a living legend walks onto one of daytime TV's most heated stages and refuses to play by the rules? When a man built on discipline and respect goes head-to-head with one of the most outspoken voices in television? You're about to witness the clash that no one saw coming. Chuck Norris versus Joy Behar. And it didn't end the way anyone expected. The studio audience was electric that morning, buzzing with anticipation. Chuck Norris wasn't just any guest. He was an icon, a symbol of toughness, strength, and an almost mythical figure in American pop culture. As the lights dimmed and the theme music of The View played, Whoopi Goldberg's voice carried across the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "please welcome action star, martial artist, and cultural phenomenon Chuck Norris." The crowd erupted. Cheers, applause, whistles, the kind of energy that only a true legend could command. Chuck walked out with that calm, confident stride, dressed simply in jeans and a black shirt. He shook hands with each of the hosts, his demeanor polite, steady, and unshaken. When the applause faded, Whoopi smiled warmly. "So, Chuck, welcome to The View. It's been a while since we've seen you on a show like this. What brings you here today?" Chuck leaned back slightly, folding his hands on the table. "Well, I've been working on a few projects, doing some speaking engagements, staying active, but honestly, I wanted to come on and talk to people directly. There's a lot happening in the world, and I think it's important to have real conversations." That's when Joy Behar leaned in, eyes sharp and curious. "Real conversations, huh? That's interesting, because a lot of people might say you've been pretty quiet on some major issues. I mean, you're this big, tough guy, the Chuck Norris. But when it comes to things like social justice, equality, or some of the real fights happening today, where have you been?" The table went silent. Chuck didn't flinch. He met her gaze head-on, calm but firm. "I've been exactly where I've always been, Joy. I've been standing for what I believe in. Just because I'm not on Twitter every 5 minutes doesn't mean I don't have opinions or that I'm not engaged." Joy smirked, shaking her head. "Okay, but standing for what exactly? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you've been pretty comfortable staying in your lane, not rocking the boat. Meanwhile, people are out there fighting for their rights, fighting for change. What have you done?" Sonny Hostin shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension rise. "Joy, I think Chuck has been involved in a lot of charitable work over the years. He's done a lot for kids, for veterans." Joy cut her off with a dismissive wave. "Sure, charity's great, but I'm talking about taking a stand on the issues that matter. I'm talking about using your platform to speak up for people who don't have one." Chuck's jaw tightened slightly, though his voice stayed even. "Joy, I've spent my entire life teaching discipline, respect, and personal responsibility. I've worked with thousands of kids through my programs, helping them stay out of gangs, stay in school, and build character. That's my platform. I don't need to shout the loudest to make a difference." Joy laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "Oh, character and discipline. That's great, Chuck, really. But what about systemic issues? What about inequality? You can teach all the karate you want, but if the system's broken, what good does that do?" Chuck leaned forward, tone sharpening. "The system isn't going to fix people, Joy. People fix themselves. You can change laws all day long, but if individuals don't take responsibility for their own lives, for their own choices, nothing changes." "That's not popular to say, but it's the truth," the audience murmured. Some clapped. Others sat in stiff silence. Joy's face flushed slightly. "Oh, so it's all about personal responsibility, huh? What about people who don't have the same opportunities you had? People born into poverty, into broken systems. Are you telling me they just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps?" Chuck didn't blink. "I'm telling you, I came from nothing, Joy. My family struggled. I worked my way up. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying everyone's path is the same. But waiting around for someone else to fix your problems isn't the answer." Joy's voice rose, emotion creeping into her words. "That's such a privileged thing to say. You got lucky, Chuck. You made it. Good for you. But millions of people don't get that chance. And sitting here telling them it's their fault? That's not only wrong, it's dangerous. Whoopi raised her hand, trying to cool things down. Okay, let's just take a breath here. But Joy wasn't done. She turned on Chuck again, eyes blazing. You know what your problem is? You live in this bubble where everything worked out for you, so you think it can work out for everyone. But the real world doesn't work like that. The real world is messy. It's unfair. And people like you telling people like them that they're just not trying hard enough. That's part of the problem. Chuck's eyes darkened. His voice dropped, low and deliberate. And people like you, Joy, telling everyone they're victims, that they can't succeed without someone handing them everything, that's not helping anyone. That's keeping people down. You want to talk about privilege? How about the privilege of sitting here on national TV, making millions and telling people they don't have a chance? That's privilege! The audience gasped. Joy's mouth fell open, her face turning red. Joy was stunned, her voice shaking as she shot back. Excuse me? Did you seriously just say that to me? Before Whoopi could step in, Ana Navarro tried to lighten the mood, her voice strained but calm. Okay, everyone, let's take a little step back here. I think we're getting a bit heated. But Joy cut her off sharply. No, Ana. I want to hear this. Chuck, are you really going to sit there and lecture me about privilege? You, the guy who made a career punching people on screen. You're going to tell me I don't understand struggle? Chuck didn't even blink. His voice stayed steady, but the steel in his tone was unmistakable. I'm telling you that your message is destructive. You want people to believe they can't make it, that the world is against them. I want people to believe they can overcome anything. That's the difference between us. Joy slammed her hand on the table. The sound echoed through the studio. That is such garbage. You don't get to rewrite reality just because it makes you feel good about yourself. Chuck leaned forward, voice rising now to meet her intensity. And you don't get to tell people they're helpless just because it fits your narrative. The studio went dead silent. You could feel the air tighten. Whoopi, sensing things were spiraling, jumped in. All right, okay, let's take a break. We're going to commercial. But Joy didn't move. She was shaking, furious. This isn't over, Chuck. Chuck's reply was ice cold. No, Joy. I don't think it is. The cut to commercial couldn't come fast enough. The audience buzzed, the hosts huddled, producers whispered into headsets like an emergency was unfolding. Chuck sat motionless, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Joy paced near the table, head shaking, muttering under her breath. 30 seconds. That's all the break they got before the stage manager shouted, "We're live in 30!" Everyone rushed back to their spots, but the energy was completely different now. The lighthearted mood was gone, replaced by something raw and unstable. Whoopi tried to start fresh. Welcome back to The View. As you can see, we're having a spirited conversation today with our guest, Chuck Norris. She forced a smile, but it barely held. Before the break, things got a little intense. Let's remember, we're here to have a discussion, not a fight. Joy jumped in before anyone could respond. Whoopi, I appreciate that, but I'm not going to apologize for calling out a harmful mindset. Chuck came on this show and started spouting talking points that completely ignore reality, that millions of people face every single day. Chuck turned to her, eyes calm, but voice edged with conviction. Joy, you keep saying I'm ignoring reality, but what you're ignoring is that I've lived in the real world. I've worked with real people. I've seen what happens when you tell someone they can succeed versus when you tell them they can't. And I'm telling you, your approach doesn't help. Joy laughed bitterly, throwing up her hands. My approach? My approach is acknowledging that not everyone gets the same shot you did. My approach is fighting for policies that actually level the playing field, instead of pretending hard work alone is enough. Chuck didn't flinch. And my approach is empowering people to take control of their own lives, instead of waiting for the government or anyone else to save them. You want to talk about leveling the playing field? Fine, but you can't legislate work ethic. You can't legislate determination. Those things come from within. Sunny Hostin leaned in, trying to mediate. I think both perspectives have merit here. Chuck, you're right that personal responsibility matters. But Joy's also right. Systemic barriers exist. These things aren't mutually exclusive. Joy shook her head, frustration written all over her face. No, Sonny. In this case, they are. Because when you sit here and say people just need to work harder, you're ignoring generations of oppression, of inequality, of systems designed to keep certain people down. You're victim-blaming, Chuck. That's what you're doing. Chuck's face hardened. Victim-blaming. That's your go-to, isn't it? Anyone who suggests people have agency, who suggests people have power over their own destiny, you call them a victim-blamer. Well, let me tell you something, Joy. The real victim-blaming is telling people they're too weak, too oppressed, too disadvantaged to ever make something of themselves without your help. Joy pushed her chair back and stood up. The tension spiked instantly. I never said people are weak. I said the system is rigged. There's a difference, Chuck. And the fact that you can't see that shows exactly how out of touch you are. Chuck stood up too, towering over the table, his presence commanding. Out of touch? When's the last time you actually spent time with the people you claim to speak for, Joy? When's the last time you were in a neighborhood where kids are struggling, where families are barely making it? I'm there all the time. I see it. And you know what those people want? They want opportunity. They want hope. They don't want someone telling them they're victims. Joy's voice trembled with fury. How dare you? How dare you act like I don't care about people? I've spent my career fighting for the underdog, fighting for justice, fighting for people who don't have a voice. And you come in here with your macho attitude and your simplistic worldview and act like I'm the problem? Chuck's tone dropped, low and powerful. You're not fighting for anyone, Joy. You're fighting for your own ego, to feel righteous, to feel good about yourself. But the policies you push, the mindset you promote, they don't lift people up. They keep them dependent. They keep them angry. They keep them blaming instead of building. The crowd froze. The silence was thick enough to choke on. Whoopi's eyes darted between them. Joy's face turned scarlet. You know what, Chuck, she said, her voice shaking. You're a relic, a dinosaur. You think you can just come on here, talk down to people, and everyone will bow because you're Chuck Norris? Guess what? Times have changed. Chuck's eyes narrowed, his words like stone. You're right. Times have changed. Now people like you can say whatever you want, push whatever agenda you want, and if anyone disagrees, you call them names. You can't handle a different opinion, Joy. You live in an echo chamber. The second someone challenges you, you lose it. Joy pointed at him, hand trembling. Lose it? You came on this show with an attitude. You've been condescending since the moment you sat down. Chuck's frustration finally cracked through his calm. Condescending? I've been respectful. I came here for a conversation, and you've done nothing but attack me. You don't want a conversation, Joy. You want a target. Joy took a step closer. You insulted me. You insulted what I stand for. You don't get to do that and call it conversation. Chuck didn't move an inch. It's the truth, Joy. And if you can't handle the truth, maybe you shouldn't be sitting at this table. The audience gasped. Cameras zoomed in. Producers scrambled. Whoopi jumped up again, shouting, That's enough! Both of you, sit down now. But neither of them moved. The tension was nuclear. Joy's voice was sharp, almost trembling. You need to leave. You need to get off this set right now. Chuck's reply came cold as steel. You don't get to tell me what to do, Joy. She turned to Whoopi, voice rising. Whoopi, I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting here with someone who insults me, who insults this show. Either he goes or I go. Whoopi froze. The producers were yelling through earpieces. Sonny and Anna sat in stunned silence. Finally, Chuck broke the stillness, his tone quiet, but cutting like a blade. You know what, Joy? You can't handle someone who doesn't bow down to you, so fine. I'll leave. But everyone watching just saw exactly who you are. Someone who can't defend her ideas without throwing a tantrum. He stood, took one step toward the edge of the stage, then turned back one last time. They saw that when someone challenges you, you shut down. You proved my point better than I ever could. Then he walked off. Cameras rolled. The audience sat frozen. The studio fell silent as Chuck Norris walked off the set. Every camera stayed on. Every audience member frozen. Disbelief hung in the air. Joy Behar stood motionless, her chest rising and falling, face flushed red. Whoopi slowly sat back down, rubbing her temples, the weight of what had just happened sinking in. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Joy broke the silence. "No," she said sharply, staring at the empty space where Chuck had been. "I'm not just moving on like that didn't happen. Chuck Norris came on this show, insulted me, insulted what we do here, and walked off like a hero? That's not okay." Whoopi tried to diffuse the tension. "Joy, maybe let's take a beat." But Joy cut her off. "No, Whoopi, I'm tired of pretending that attitude is just another opinion." What he said was offensive. It's cruel to tell struggling people that their problems are just their fault. Sonny Hostin leaned forward softly. "I understand, Joy, but it also got personal. Maybe both of you went a little too far." Joy turned, voice trembling between anger and hurt. "He made it personal, Sonny. He said I was keeping people dependent. That's not debate. That's an attack." Anahita tried to reason gently. "Maybe there's truth on both sides. Systems matter, but personal effort does too. Isn't that worth acknowledging?" Joy sighed deeply, her fire giving way to exhaustion. "Maybe. But I can't sit here while someone dismisses generations of people who never got a fair shot." Whoopi nodded slowly. "I get it, Joy. But sometimes passion burns so hot, it scorches everything around it. You've got fire, and that's what people love about you. But maybe, just maybe, the fire was too strong today." Joy looked down, her voice quieter now. "I just hate seeing people told their pain doesn't matter." Whoopi reached over, taking her hand. "Nobody's saying that. But if we can't talk to people we disagree with, we'll never move forward." The audience remained silent. It wasn't a TV show anymore. It was a mirror. Everyone watching had seen something raw, something real. Two people standing for what they believed in and colliding. As the show wrapped, Whoopi faced the camera. Sometimes conversations get messy. Sometimes they hurt. But that's real life. The question is, do we shut down? Or do we keep trying to understand each other? Joy looked into the lens, her expression softened but still proud. "I stand by challenging harmful ideas, but maybe, next time, I'll try to do it without turning it into a war." The screen faded to black as the outro music played, the hosts sitting quietly, the energy heavy, the message clear. Chuck Norris had walked onto The View, expecting a conversation, and walked out, making history. It wasn't just an argument. It was a reflection of what's happening everywhere. Passion colliding with pride, belief clashing with ego. And for once, daytime TV didn't need a script. It just needed two people who refused to back down. The question now, whose side are you on?